I would say since its inception, but not the first. I was not part of the 25th birthday when we started. After that 25th was when I started. I would say his faithfulness and the authority of his word. You realize that God has always been faithful. If I look at my life and where I've been, what he has done for me, sometimes the ups and downs, how he is able to come through for me by the word that you hear from church and the encouragement from the pulpit, you realize that he's indeed faithful. So I would say his faithfulness according to his word. That's an interesting one. I would say my way of life. I use it as an influence because wherever I find myself, uh, I remember I'm a Sunday school teacher, so I remember one time I was on a trip. So those days, going to live Kumasi, and I met a member of our church.
Okay.
Remember on that trip, we were only three. When he met me, he called me, Charles, how are you? And I was at the that was around the um, place we eat. I mean, in the dining area. So I asked myself, what if this man remembered me? He called my name. Also, I was doing something strange. Maybe you have brought something or you're doing something. I was like, wow, at least people recognize you and the things you do. So I was like, yeah. So my way of life as a teacher should also let people know that, yeah, I serve God. Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul. His writings, anytime I read it, they're intriguing. And anytime you study it, you realize that there are, there are new things to what he has written down that gives more meaning, especially when you compare it to the Old Testament. Sometimes you read it, you never know that it has a reference in the Old Testament. At a particular point, if you are privy to some of the things in the Old Testament, you realize that he was referring to those things. And sometimes it amazes me how he only had an encounter with Christ by revelation, but at the end of the day, his impact with among the apostles was more than he having a physical encounter with Christ himself. So, my favorite worship song, I think, is Joe Metals. I have his worship medley in Ghana, which I've been listening of late. It will still be Apostle Paul. I want to really know he how he had those in-depth revelation, especially his words that says that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. I look at how Christ met him and says that I show him how many things he must suffer for my name's sake. And then he comes out to say that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. I mean, as a Christian walk, sometimes we feel there's no suffering. But when Paul talks about his challenges, his sufferings, he says that he ends up by saying that he counts everything that he have not will not be a par with what Christ has done for him. He counts it about dung, but for the excellency of what God has done for him. For that knowledge alone, someone who is learned, you could say he was a Pharisee of a Pharisee. At the end of the day, to come out that way I think about this mind baffling. Because if you look at today's generation and men of God, you realize that he was way different. Thank you. I would say I'm also very curious. I like to look into things that people might not like to look into. So sometimes what people are scared of looking into, I go in faith to see whether I'll be able to look into it and find out. Because I'm curious, sometimes I feel people might think they're strange. I remember when people said when I was going in the university days, or I think in ASS, people said, "Oh, the apocryphas are very bad. Don't read them." What is there that you don't want us to read? What is in there?
Right.
People will tell you that, oh, it has spiritual connotation. You go mad when we're young. So, but anytime I pick it, I tell God. He said we should test all spirits. So this is something I want to test. So I read it, and then it also gave me a wider or broader perspective of some of the things in Christ that I know today.
Thank you.